Hello everyone, I am Adey Purohit, a data analysis intern at the Start Tech Academy. In this video, I will be explaining the solution to the task 1 that I have been assigned. So, the first subtask says to draw a pivot table to get different types of outlets and their counts. Let's look at the data set first. This is my data set. So, what I will do is select the insert option or the insert tab besides the home tab and click on pivot table. The range selected here by default is table 1, that is the complete data set, and that is what I want as the range of my pivot table as well. I want it as a new worksheet, and therefore I will select OK. Once I select OK, I have this interface which will help me to easily create a pivot table simply by dragging and dropping the attributes or the fields into the areas given below. So if I want my rows to be of item type, then I have to select the item type from here, drag it and drop it in the rows section. And if I want the sales of those particular item types, all I need to do is to drag it from here and drop it into the values. Voila! Here we have the sale of every uh, item category. Similarly, this was just an example. Let's now look into the first pivot table. In this pivot table, we were supposed to create the outlet type versus the count of outlet type. So we wanted to know the count of each outlet type of the superstores. So this is the count here, right here, versus the type. And I have arranged this data into an ascending order. You can do so by selecting any of the cell, right clicking it, and why it doesn't work? Yeah, right clicking it, and then look on select the sort option, and then select either you want it in ascending order or descending order. This data is already sorted into an ascending order, so let's sort it in descending order this time. When I click this, now this is sorted into the descending order. So we can clearly identify that the supermarket type 1 has the highest count of outlets. Then we have the grocery store, which is less than supermarket type 1. Then we have supermarket type 3 and 2. And here we have the grand total, that is the number of total outlets of the superstore. The second pivot table is between the outlet identifier, that is the outlet number basically, and the item outlet sales. So what we want is the ID of the outlet, the superstore outlet, versus the sales that it has actually created or generated. So here we can see that outlet 019 has created this much amount of sales. Outlet 010 has created this much amount of sales, and this data is actually sorted in an ascending order. The next is the pivot table between item type, outlet type, and item outlet sales. All we need to do is just drag this item type from here and drop it over here. Then outlet item type here, outlet type into the columns, and then item outlet sales into the values. Remember, filling out the values is very important for creating a pivot table, as that is how you will get the insights of the numbers that you want from the data. So if we want to say, let's say, analyze how much revenue or how much sales actually has been generated from supermarket type 3 from the starchy food category, item category, and we can easily say that 22775 is the value of the sales that has been generated from the supermarket type 3 outlet in the starchy food category. And here are the grand total of all the different sales of the different types of stores and the items. The items grand total is here, and the outlet grand total is here. The next is, just a second, fourth one. So in the fourth pivot table, we have item fat content, item type, item outlet type, outlet type, and item outlet sales. Here we actually had to create a filter which filters out the products according to the amount of fat they contain. So if the product contains low fat, then we can, if we want to include the products of low fat, we can select the low fat content products here. If we do not want the regular, we can deselect the regular products here. And this is how the filter works. How is the filter actually added? It's very simple. The feature on which, or the attribute on which you want to make a filter, you just have to drag that feature and drop it into the filters area. And once you do that, similar kind of filter will be created, just like you can see here. So let's say I do not want, firstly, I want all the products. Then this is the data for all the products. You can see that the table is changing according to the filter. Now I do not want low fat products data. So I'm deselecting low fat products, hitting OK, and we have removed the low fat products from the pivot table. That's how a filter works. It makes analysis very easy and very efficient. Let's look into the fifth and the last pivot table. So in this pivot table, we have a slicer. Now, what's a slicer? It is a type of filtering only, but in this we can specifically select a range of the categories that we want to. So how do we actually add the slicers? So we just select this, select any of the cells of the pivot table, and we want to insert a slicer. So we will go into insert and then click on slicer, and whatever slicer you want to add, you can add it from here. I have already added two slicers, therefore I'm not adding any third one. Let's add it so we can see how we added it. Let's see, I want to add a slicer of item fat content. I select OK. Okay, I already had it once. So this is the item outlet sales. I didn't want that. And this is the item fat content. Once I select this, the only low fat product category is visible on this pivot table. Once I select regular, only regular categories shown on this pivot table. But the thing is that we can actually select fields or attributes from various types. So I selected breakfast, I selected 718, and the data or the results of the pivot table changed accordingly. That's all for the task 1. Now let's see task 2.